toes and O's, whatever floats your goat. It's Relentless here, bringing you a Division build video. If y'all requested this, I've done previous variations of this build on my channel, so go check these out. But this is pretty much geared to maximize the most damages possible, and with this gear set, you do not have to have it optimized. It is a fun build. Most solo players that I see in the DZ are basically doing a lot of trolling, but there are those that are few or actually going in there and utilizing this build to more or less farm to get other gear sets and basically just to have fun. I see a lot of people just like to flag rogue, take a couple pop shots, and then take you on a tour of DZ 1 through 9, just constantly dropping shock turrets and just running. And there are those DZ fuzz that are out there that would literally chase them from DZ 1 to DZ 9. But not this cat. If you're not manhunt, I'm not even messing with you, because usually I'm the rogue and I'm actually going against the DZ police. But anyways, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate all your love and support. A thumbs up is not more or less a have to have, but if you enjoy the video, please ground and pound that like button. And if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for tuning in. Ground and pound that sub button if you are enjoying the content. But without further ado, let's hop right into it. Surprise, surprise, surprise. 6-piece Nomad. We are running 77.94 in firearms, 53.15 in stamina, and the base amount of skill power possible at 29.50. Let's start with the weapons here first. We have the House 22.5k base with Vicious, Deadly, and the card counter. In the mods in our weapon, we have 116.5% magazine size, crit damage, crit chance. The optics, we have crit damage, optimal range, and crit chance. In the muzzle, we have crit hit damage, headshot damage, and crit hit chance. And in the small underbarrel, we have crit hit damage, reload speed, and stability. I mostly only run with SMGs. I don't really like ARs. But if I need to conserve a little ammo, then I have the Bullfrog. And with the addition damage down there, it's running around 20k as well. And its talents are responsive, deadly, and uncomplicated. And in its mods, we have magazine size, crit damage, crit chance. And the optics going for the extra crit chance, because basically if you don't have any crit chance, you can't do any crit damage. And then we're going with headshot damage and a crit hit damage. In the suppressor, crit hit damage, crit hit chance, optimal range. And in the underbarrel, crit hit damage, reload speed, and stability. Now, if you want to see the main stats, before we go any further, we are running 50% crit chance and 136% crit hit damage. Now, there are multiple different ways when it comes to the skills actually utilized and when it comes to the talents. If you are more or less running solo, that's what this build is more or less set up. There's a little different variation when it comes to group play, but you can run this identical build in group play, and it is still beastly. You won't get as many procs, but if you're running with a good tac build that has a good box, an immunizer box for those that do not know what just a box is, or a reclaimer, then you're going to be godlike. But if you don't want to utilize the Scrambler Pulse, which gives you basically the base crit hit chance and a little crit hit damage, then you can go with the immunizer box as a skill if you running into tons of pred builds, so that way it will help out on the bleed factor and help you conserve med kits. But if you want to just go out pure base damage, then you can go with the Scrambler. And as I have it set up with 2% crit hit damage mods in my mod slots on my gear, but we'll get to that in just a moment. But on your talents, if you don't want to use a pulse and want to run an immunizer, then you can have the precision talent, which is headshot a hostile to pulse them for 10 seconds. The benefits, pulse, and it affects agents. Then, of course, you want adrenaline medkit. Now gives 7 seconds of immunity from stats effects. That helps out with bleed, shock, and fire turrets. Also, combat medic if you are running it in a group. This will allow you and your group more or less to In a way, share med kits, because when you pop a med kit and then you have teammates in the close proximity, then they're also going to get some heal from when you pop a med kit, and vice versa. And then we have Strike Back, reach low health to reduce active skill cooldowns or 20%. Now this one is not a necessity. You can go with critical save, use a medkit during low health to increase damage resistance by 20% for 10 seconds. So it's just whichever you prefer, and it correlates with your playstyle. But that covers more or less the skill. Booster shot, of course, for the extra damage, because you're not getting any damage buffs from talents from the gear set themselves. So that's why you would want to go with the booster shot. Now that that's done and over with, let's get into the gear. Pretty much when it comes to Nomad Solo, you do not have to have any pieces completely optimized. As we go through each individual ones, I'll show you and tell you what I feel is best for my particular playstyle, but you can mix and match and tweak things here and there to better suit your playstyle. But this has a lot of survivability, and you're pretty much relying on your procs when solo. So that's why you can maximize the most damage and the firearms category as possible. And by looking at your toughness, you think, well, you know, that dude's not really tough, he's going to be really squishy. But yet, if you take in consideration the procs from Nomad, and then you have your recovery link, if you choose to pop it, basically you have 9 lives. So that way you can spec into more firearms and other things, and don't have to more or less rely on your sole main health pool like so many other builds that you would have to. So starting with the vest, you want the major attributes as far as health. You can go with the additional health on a kill, also along with health, but in this case, if you run into seeker mines, such as people trying out sticky bombs, then you want a little bit of EDR, such as I have here at 9.5%. And in the miners, as always, you want ammo capacity. Now moving on to the mod slots themselves, we have 2 firearms mods with health. And moving on to the mask, in the major attributes, you want crit chance. In the minors, it's just pretty much whatever you prefer, whether it be burn resistance or bleed resistance, or in this case, I have disorient resistance, and you want it rolled to firearms as well. And then in the mod slot, we have another firearms and health mod. Moving on to the knee pads, this is probably the best piece that I actually have as far as when it comes to optimizing at least that aspect of it. A good firearms roll, 1650 armor, almost completely optimized. In the major attributes, you want crit hit damage. And the minors, I have 16% damage to elites, which does help out in the DZ or LS, the light zone, when it comes to dealing with NPCs, because you get that extra damage when it comes to the elites that you see, or such as named bosses, or whatever the case may be. It does help out in that situation. And also, I have 33% burn resistance. Now moving on to the mod slots, we have another firearms and health, and here in the performance mod slot, we have, as I said before, the 2% pulse crit hit damage, and that's just more or less to show you, you can put these in if you choose to run a scrambler pulse, and instead of getting basically your base around 8% crit damage, then by actually having 4 of these, you're going to get 8 more crit hit damage to that, for a total of around 15 or 16 more crit hit damage, already on top of the 136% crit hit damage I currently have. So that alone puts me well over 140, almost at 150 crit hit damage with 50% crit hit chance. And that's base, and then if you add the crit hit chance and pulse, then as long as you're over 55% crit hit chance, then you're good to go and you're golden. Now moving on to the backpack. In the minors, you always want ammo capacity. In the majors, you want crit hit damage, and you want it rolled to firearms. And in the mod slots, we have firearms with health and 2 more pulse crit hit damage. Now I have 2 different sets of gloves. I have not come across an actually godlike or a pair of Nomad gloves that I can actually prefer and want them rolled. As you can see, it's rolled to SMG damage, crit hit damage, and instead of crit hit chance, I got stuck with the 9% skill haste, because these particular gloves roll with electronics and I believe pistol damage and LMG damage, so I had to pretty much take what I could get and try to utilize them as best as possible, and they still work out really well. Now as you can see, I do have another pair of Nomad gloves, but they're just as horrendous. But no need. As you can see, I'm still at 50% crit chance. But yet, if crit chance was rolled in my major attributes, then I would be at 56% crit hit chance, and there would be more or less no need for the talent precision, nor would they more or less be any need for the pulse, except for the fact of if you want more crit hit damage when facing enemies in the DZ. And then you want the gloves roll to stamina like I have, and as you can see, it's not nearly optimized, and really the armor values of these pieces don't really matter, because basically, like I said before, you're going to have 9 lives, so you're not more or less focusing on your toughness area, but more or less how much damage you can actually do downrange. Now moving on to the holster, this holster is optimized. It's the best one that I've gotten so far. 1001 armor, good main stats, 1401, 1393, 1390. And in the majors, you want crit chance. And as you can see, also, I have 2% pulse crit hit damage. So, an overview. I'm utilizing the house, as you see here, with a 50% crit hit chance and 136% crit hit damage. If you choose to run the precision talent, then you're basically going to get the base pulse coming from that, so that's going to put me well over the 55% crit hit chance that you want to reach. But also, if you want to run scrambler like I have here with the 2% pulse crit hit damage, you're going to be over 55% crit hit chance, and also you're going to get 15.2% crit hit damage on top of the 136% crit damage you already have. So that's roughly, since my math was off earlier, that's going to be 151% crit hit damage. And then we are running booster shot just for not more or less the heal you get from it, but more or less the damage buff that you get for popping the booster shot. But anyways, this is my interpretation of the Nomad and how I like to run it when solo, maximizing damage and relying on the procs of the Nomad talents themselves and the gear to have survivability and still lay waste to other people in the DZ. I encourage you to try it, but I'm pretty sure majority, probably 90% of you have some kind of variation of Nomad build, and some like to go 9k firearms and basically have nothing in toughness and rely on their procs that way. But I found out a more of a balance between the stamina and toughness is more effective, because you do have more survivability and your procs don't proc as fast, and you don't have to wait for them on cooldown, so you have more survivability overall in the long run. But I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to see other variations such as the skill build Nomad, that video is also on my channel. I hope you all enjoyed it. Ground and pound that like and subscribe button, and if you're new to the channel, turn on post notifications so that way you know each and every time a new video goes live. But thank you guys so much. We'll see you fudging later.